It wasn't even an accusation, it was a question, a simple one. Can we see the breakdown of the landscaping expenses? The clubhouse air changed immediately. You could feel it, the kind of shift that makes people look down at their hands instead of at the speaker. HOA-Karen sat at the head of the folding table like she always did, back straight, binder aligned perfectly with the table's edge, lips pressed into a line that suggested patience she didn't feel. The landscaping contract had increased 3 times in 1 year. No community vote, no detailed breakdown, just an email saying costs adjusted for neighborhood improvement. So Daniel raised his hand, not aggressively, not emotionally, just curious. He had receipts, he had screenshots, he had comparisons from neighboring communities paying half as much. And when he finished speaking, he ended with, "We're not accusing anyone. We just want transparency." That word, transparency. Karen's smile didn't disappear, but it hardened. "These matters," she said calmly, "are handled internally by the board." Daniel blinked. "We are the board. It's our money." A murmur followed, soft at first, then louder. More questions began to surface about lighting repairs, about pool maintenance, about late fees, about fines that appeared without warning. Karen closed her binder slowly. "I sense hostility," she said. And just like that, a question became a challenge. A challenge became a threat, and something invisible snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Because when leadership feels questioned, it either clarifies or it retaliates. And we had just chosen the wrong option. We chose to ask. It arrived the next morning, 7:12 a.m., an email notification. Subject line, architectural violation notice, immediate action required. Daniel thought it was spam until he opened it. Unapproved exterior paint shade variance. He stared at his house through the window. Same color it had been for 6 years. Approved, documented, archived. Attached to the email was a $250 fine, due in 7 days. No warning, no prior notice, no courtesy email, just a fine. He wasn't the only one. By noon, the neighborhood group chat was exploding. Sarah received a fine for visible trash receptacle. Her bin was inside her fence. Marcus was cited for excessive driveway usage. He had 2 cars, like he always had. Pattern recognition doesn't take long, and everyone noticed. Every single fine went to residents who had spoken at the meeting, not one to anyone who stayed silent. Not one. Karen sent a community-wide email that evening. Routine compliance reviews are being conducted to ensure neighborhood standards are upheld. Routine. Interesting word, because it didn't feel routine. It felt targeted, calculated, measured. The message underneath was clear. Question authority, and authority will question you back. But something unexpected happened. Instead of silence, screenshots started circulating. People compared timestamps, violation language, formatting. Even the phrasing was identical. It wasn't enforcement, it was escalation. And once residents realized they weren't alone, fear started turning into something else. Not courage, not yet, but awareness. And awareness spreads fast. By week 2, it wasn't subtle anymore. Grass height violations, mailbox positioning warnings, holiday decor timing infractions. Rules that had never been enforced were suddenly weaponized. Daniel began documenting everything: dates, photos, correspondence. He walked the neighborhood one evening with his phone camera on. 3 homes with the same paint violation. 0 notices sent. 5 houses with bins visible from the street. No fines. 2 driveways with 4 cars parked. No emails. He wasn't crazy. It was selective. And selective enforcement isn't about rules. It's about power. Karen started driving slowly down the street in the evenings, windows slightly lowered, watching, not speaking, just observing. Residents felt it. Curtains moved, garage doors closed quicker, conversations lowered when her car passed. This wasn't governance anymore. It was surveillance. Then came the certified letter. Late fee added, interest accruing, legal action possible. The Thompsons, who had also spoken up, received a lien warning. A lien over a trash bin citation. That was the moment it stopped being annoying and started being dangerous, because retaliation backed by paperwork is intimidation, and intimidation backed by legal threats, that's strategy. But strategies leave trails, and trails can be followed. The retaliation didn't end with more fines. It ended with exposure. What Karen didn't realize was that intimidation leaves a paper trail. Every violation letter had a timestamp. Every selective inspection had a pattern. Every warning email was documented. And when residents compared notes, the pattern became undeniable. Only the households who questioned her were cited. Only the people who attended that finance meeting were suddenly non-compliant. It wasn't enforcement, it was retaliation. The emergency session was called within 2 weeks, standing room only. But this time, nobody was nervous. They were prepared. Emails printed, logs highlighted, selective enforcement mapped chronologically on a screen. Even the board members who had stayed silent couldn't ignore it anymore. When confronted, Karen insisted it was coincidence, claimed she was simply doing her job. But governance without neutrality becomes punishment, and punishment without cause becomes abuse. The vote wasn't chaotic, it was steady, measured, decisive. Removal passed by a margin large enough that no one questioned it. All retaliatory fines were voided. A new oversight clause was added to prevent selective enforcement. Transparency protocols were implemented, but the real shift wasn't procedural. It was cultural. Neighbors started talking again. Kids played outside without fear of citations. And meetings, they became discussions instead of warnings. Karen thought authority meant control. She learned too late that authority without accountability collapses under scrutiny, because communities don't break when questioned. They break when questioning is punished. And this time, the neighborhood chose courage over silence. Now, I want to ask you something. If you questioned leadership in your community and suddenly became a target, would you stay quiet to protect your peace, or would you risk it to protect everyone else? Tell me in the comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.